In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a simple alert dialog. So there's one picture that I'm going to use in this specific example, and the picture you will find, and just go to Google and search for reset PNG transparent, and then it will give you images that looks like this. Go to images, and a nice thing that you can do is to go to search tools, go to usage rights, and go to labeled for reuse, which means that these you can actually use without using or going through any boundaries of you may not download this or whatever. So for this picture, I'm going to use this picture. You can just right click and download that picture. I'm going to save, or I already saved mine to downloads. So this is the picture I'm going to use, but you can really use any picture. Okay, so I'm going to just add that picture. So I'm going to go into my resources folder. I'm going to say new image asset, and then go to the three dots there, and mine is in downloads. There's the one that I've downloaded, and it is now part of my project. I'm just going to center it quickly, and then I'm going to name it reset. And then you can just say finish. And now in my map folder, you can see that that reset picture is now part of the project. Okay, so what I want to do today is to just quickly show you how to do an alert dialog. Okay, so for this example, we're just going to put a button on the main activity. So on the main activity, let me just zoom in quickly. I don't like the relative layout, so I'm going to change this again to a linear layout. Come on. To a linear layout, and then you need to add the Android orientation property to vertical. I'm going to delete the text view there, and then when we go back to design, I'm just going to drag in a button there. Now that button, we can set some text for the button. So in the strings XML, so go to values, strings XML, I'm just going to give it a value of let's just call it BTN. I'm going to call that one reset password. So in a lot of applications, you've got a little button that you can click somewhere to reset your password. So this will do something like that. And then the text for this one will just be reset password. Okay, so that will be the text for the button. So I can save it. And then if we go to the main activity again, just double click that button, three dots, and then BTN reset password. So it's going to show reset password. So that's all I want for this specific activity. So what we want to do now is to just go and connect this button to a specific method. So I'm going to say public void BTN reset password. And then in brackets, you can choose view, so you don't need to add the import, but Alt Enter if you forgot to choose it from the view to add the import. Okay, so then I can go back to my button and then go down to the onClick property, search for the onClick property, and you'll see your method that we just created is in the list. So just choose the method, and then this button is now connected to this method. So when we click the button, it will go to this method. Okay, so this is basically what we need for the main activity. Now for our pop-up that we're going to do. When we click on this button, we want to have that alert dialog pop up on the screen, and then maybe just ask the guy for his email address in order to reset his password. Okay, so what we need to do for our alert dialog is to go and create a layout file that will represent that specific pop-up. So I'm going to go to my layout folder, right click and say new layout resource file, and that layout resource file I'm going to name password underscore reset underscore layout. Okay, and you can see it's a linear layout right from the start. You can just click on OK, and then we have a brand new layout that we can work with. But this one is not connected to a specific activity. This is going to be the layout for our pop-up for our alert dialog. So in this specific one, I just want to ask the guy for his email. So I'm just going to drag in one email text field there. Then if we go to the margin, let's just set a left margin of 10 and a bottom margin of 10. no, sorry, not the bottom, right margin of 10. And then we're done with that part. Let's just go to the strings XML quickly, and we can set up the hint for that text field. So we're going to say hint mail, and then we're going to say something like, please enter email address. Okay, so we can save there, close down strings XML, double click, no, not double click, that's for the text property. Let's go to the hint property on the right hand side. There's the hint property, the 3 dots, and then go down to hint mail, and there's the hint. Okay, so just to center it, go to your gravity property and say center horizontal. So now it's been centered. So this reset or password reset layout we will use for our pop-up, but it's going to be popped up in the main activity. I'm always talking about a pop-up, but it's an alert dialog. So in the main activity, we're going to click the button, and then we're going to pop up this specific alert dialog. Okay, so let's go to the main activity then, enter this button to see what happens when we click the button in order to build that new alert dialog. So the first thing that we need to do in coding is to connect to this layout. And on this layout, there's a text field. Now, at this stage, the ID for the text field is called edit text. So let's just give it another ID. We're going to call it ET mail, ET for edit text, and then mail. So now it's got an ID. So what I want to do now is to make a connection to this view, and then to make a connection to this ET mail as well, so that we can get whatever the user types. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to use the layout inflator. So we're going to say layout inflator, whatever you want to call it, equals, and you're just going to call get layout inflator, which means we're going to get the default layout inflator of this specific activity that is called main activity.java. So we're going to get the layout inflator, and then we're going to create a new view. So we're going to say final view, and just call it whatever you want, view equals this inflator object that we just created, inflator dot inflate, and then the first argument will be the specific layout file that you want to make a connection to. So in this case, we're going to go to r.layout.password reset layout, and then the last argument, we're not going to use a view group, so we're just going to use null. So this one line of coding basically makes a connection to this layout file of ours. So you can see there we use the inflator to inflate an external layout, and then this get layout inflator belongs to the main activity, so we inflate a specific layout, an external layout, and then here we make the connection to that layout. So it's going to be r.layout.password reset layout, which will be this layout. So we've got a connection to that specific layout now. And now we can also, on this layout, make a connection to this edit text or this text field. So we called it ET mail. So at the top, I'm just going to declare that. I'm just going to say edit text, Alt Enter for your import, ET mail. And then inside of this button, when we click the button, I'm going to set it up. So I'm going to say ET mail equals, and we're going to convert it to an edit text. And then we're also going to use find view by ID, r.id.etmail. But you'll see now it's going to give you an exception here, because if I just say find view by ID like we do now, it means that this ID or this specific view belongs to this layout that is called by using setContentView. But that's not true in this case. So activity main does not have an etmail, so it will throw you an exception. So the main thing to remember here is this view object that we've got there has got a connection to this view. So instead of just saying find view by ID, we're going to say view.findViewById, which means that on this specific view that's got a connection to password reset layout, there we will find etmail. Okay, so that one is very important. And then we can start building our alert dialog. So we're going to say alert dialog, and you need to use the builder one of android.app.alertDialog. So alert dialog builder, and I'm going to call it dialog equals, new alert dialog.builder, and then we're just going to pass in the context. So in this case, the activity that it will be launched from, which is the main activity, just the normal this keyword. Then on the dialog, there's a lot of things that you can set. So I'm going to go and say dialog.set. The first one is to set the title, and the title will just be something like reset password. Okay, reset password. That's the title of the dialog. We can also go and set the view, the layout, the specific layout that we want to show, and that's this view again that we have a link to. So we're just going to say view, so it's going to show that specific layout for us. And then on the dialog also we can set the icon that we want to use, and remember we already imported that icon. It is now in the mipmap folder and it's called reset. So we're just going to say there r.mipmap.reset, and it will set the icon. You can see it picks up the picture on the left hand side as well. Okay, so that's basically what we need to set up. And then for our specific dialog for this one, we're going to set a positive and a negative button. So the positive button will be if the guy basically says, okay, please reset my password. And the negative button will be if the guy cancels. So if I call set positive button, you can see it accepts two arguments. Basically the text that we want to display on the button, and then some on-click listener. So I'm going to use the text, just say reset. And then the second argument is the on-click listener. So we're going to say new on-click listener. If you start typing on, you'll see that it gives you this dialog interface on-click listener. And you can just choose it and click it. And right at the end, just add your semicolon. So basically what happens when we click the reset will happen in this on-click method. Okay, so then let's just set up the negative button as well. So we can go and say dialog.set negative button. And the same thing again, the text for the negative button will be cancel. And then the next argument, the second argument will again be the on-click listener. So it works the same as the positive button. So when the guy clicks on reset, we can do something in this on-click. And when he clicks on cancel, we can do something in this on-click. And then the last thing to make this one work is to just go and call the show method. So if I call the show method, this whole thing will now pop up on the screen. Okay, so what we want to do in this on-click, I'm just going to do a simple toast. So I'm going to say toast, main activity, and then what I want to display to the user is just to say reset, I'll just do double quotation marks, reset instructions sent to, just go to a new line, send to, and now we can go and get that whatever the user typed in that edit text. Remember, the user will type something in the edit text, and then we can show, or we can send the reset instructions or whatever you want to do there. So how do I get whatever the user typed there? I will refer to etmail and just call get text and to string, and then if you want to, you can also call the trim method, which will just remove any white space at the beginning or at the end of whatever the user typed. Okay, so it will show reset instructions sent to, and then whatever the user typed in that specific edit text. Okay, so that's it for this specific example of using an alert dialog. So that's the basics of an alert dialog. So you need to get a hold of that specific layout, and then you can make a connection on the components on that layout, and then start building your dialog or alert dialog. So let's run this and see how it runs on the phone. Okay, if you launch the application and click on reset password, you can see we've got the picture, we've got the edit text, and everything displays nicely. If I can now type an email address, and then I can click on the reset button, and you can see the toast that we coded. If I click on the cancel button, it will do nothing.